Most everyone in Hollywood is singing that song these days. The one that they want is the 9-pound trophy known as Oscar. It can be worth as much as $1 million to an actor, $10 million to a motion picture. And Oscar is the special subject of this special edition of Sneak Previews. We'll show you the nominees in action and try to predict the winners to be revealed on April 9th. Across the aisle from me is Roger Ebert, the Pulitzer Prize-winning film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. Now, normally I'm much better at picking Oscar winners than Roger, but last year he wiped me out. He was 5 for 5.
And this is Gene Siskel, who usually does much better than last year when he only got 2 out of 5. Gene is the film critic of the Chicago Tribune and CBS TV News in Chicago. Now, this special show will take a look at the major Academy Award categories, the one the Las Vegas odds makers make book on, like Best Picture, Best Actor and Actress, and Best Supporting Actor and Actress.
Also something unusual, maybe a first for television, a look at some of the often overlooked Oscar categories of costume design, art direction, best song, and animated short film. Now, every year we hear these winners announced on the Oscar telecast, and frankly, we couldn't care less. We don't know who the nominees are, much less why they were nominated. So Roger and I decided to illustrate these categories with film clips, too.
Yeah, we thought things like cinematography and art direction would be ideal for television because they're hard to put into words, but on TV, we can show you what the Academy members look for when they vote. And Gene and I are going to throw in our own votes for those winners, too. But first, Gene starts with the nominees for Best Actor.
This year, the majority of the nominees for Best Actor are young performers. The only veteran is Sir Laurence Olivier, who played a Nazi hunter in The Boys from Brazil. Olivier is already scheduled to receive an honorary Oscar this year for his entire career, so it's unlikely he'll win 2. The one nominee you probably haven't heard of is Gary Busey, who was just marvelous impersonating a 50s rock and roller, Buddy Holly, in the Buddy Holly Story.
Now, get ready, we're going to play some rock and roll. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Tonight there'll be no hesitating, no boy.
You mean to tell me you call me at 3 o'clock in the morning to tell me Dr. Joseph Mengele is in Paraguay? I know that, Mr. Kohler. So does my sister. So does my landlord and my tailor. And now you know it too. My congratulations.
Wait a minute. If it's supposed to be a secret, how does a rumor start?
Well, sir, wrong as it seems, they leak it.
No, but that's dishonest, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Warren Beatty is the naive hero of Heaven Can Wait. Beatty was also nominated for co-writing, co-directing, and producing the movie. Now, Roger tells me he thinks Robert De Niro will win his second Oscar. He won for The Godfather Part 2 in 1975 for his portrayal this year of a Green Beret in The Deer Hunter. De Niro has a moving homecoming scene with Meryl Streep in the film. She misses her boyfriend, Nick, who also is De Niro's best friend.
Welcome home. You know, I was hoping somehow, Michael, maybe you had Nick with you.
No. No. You hear anything on Nick?
No. Nothing. He's AWOL, that's all we know.
Could be back.
He never wrote to me. He never called me.
Well, maybe you were out.
Yeah, maybe.
Roger thinks Robert De Niro will win, but I'm predicting the Oscar will go to Jon Voight, who also played a Vietnam veteran in Coming Home. Voight's performance had an incredible range from bitterness to sweetness in the role of a paraplegic crippled by the war, but nursed back to mental and physical health by hospital volunteer Jane Fonda, who invites him over to dinner one night.
Sit down, Bender. Sit down. Are you nervous?
Yes?
Why are you nervous? This isn't have a gimp over for dinner night, is it? You're not one of of those weirdos.
No, I'm not, Luke.
I know you're not. I'm just very happy to be here.
A very sweet and powerful moment for Jon Voight. Not to repeat, the nominees for Best Actors are Gary Busey for the Buddy Holly story, Sir Laurence Olivier, The Boys from Brazil, Warren Beatty, Heaven Can Wait, Robert De Niro, The Deer Hunter, and Jon Voight for Coming Home. Now, I think Jon Voight's going to win because he was denied an Oscar he deserved back in 1969 when both he and Dustin Hoffman were nominated for Midnight Cowboy but lost out to John Wayne for True Grit. An Oscar to Voight then this year will be an apology for that oversight, and Jon Voight is enjoying a major career comeback now, and Oscar voters, I think, are suckers for comebacks too.
I've got to make clear, I thought John Wayne deserved that Oscar in 1969. This year, I'm predicting De Niro. Two reasons. First of all, a pragmatic one. The movie is very fresh, just came out in most parts of the country. It made a great impact. Coming Home is almost a year old. The second reason, a great performance. De Niro is just filled with seething intensity. He's just really filled with energy in this film.
Yeah, he has a lot of quiet power, and if there is a Deer Hunter steamroller, like there was for Annie Hall last year, I think he could win too. You've got a good point.
Some of the other performances, Warren Beatty, okay, nothing great. Laurence Olivier, one of the world's greatest actors, his taste is so good he must be kind of amazed himself that he was nominated for The Boys from Brazil.
I agree, yeah.
Gary Busey, I have a soft spot in my heart for that performance.
Yes, and what's so good about it is he's the whole picture. Without him, they don't even have a story, whereas these other guys are just parts of bigger films. Now, it's clear, we've got to make this clear, that what we're doing is predicting how the Academy members are going to vote. We're not necessarily just giving our preferences, although we're going to do that too. Well, now we'll be back with our next category after we take a look at one of the films nominated for Best Animated Short Subject. It's called Special Delivery.
When Alice Phelps left home that day to go to her judo class, she told her husband Ralph to clean off the front walk before he left for work.
Is that all right with you?
But Ralph never did what his wife told him to do. When Ralph returned home, there was a body lying on his front stairs. It was the mailman. He had obviously slipped on the ice that Ralph hadn't cleaned away and broken his neck. Ralph, fearing the wrath of the letter carriers' union, carried the body into the house. He decided he would put the body into the trunk of his car and dump it somewhere before anyone noticed that the mailman was missing. A problem struck him. If the police investigated the disappearance of the mailman, there was a rather obvious clue. All the houses on the mailman's route preceding his own would have had a mail delivery that day. Those after his would not. Ralph wondered if he should turn himself in.
Now we come to the first of those special categories that are sometimes overlooked, the one for costume design. It's an easy category to explain because everybody knows what a costume is, but it's one of the most interesting Oscar categories for a couple of reasons. First, because costume designers aren't simply designing clothes, they're interpreting the screenplay and the characters, and they're helping to realize the director's whole vision of his movie. And second, of course, Hollywood costumes often influence the way the rest of us dress. Remember the Bonnie and Clyde look, or the time Clark Gable wasn't wearing an undershirt and it happened one night and undershirt sales fell off all over the country? This year's nominations in the costume category don't seem destined to influence many spring fashions. They're all based on fantasies of one sort or another, but they sure do illustrate our designers' uninhibited imaginations. Anthony Powell designed the costumes for Death on the Nile, a film about a mixed bag of characters taking a trip down the River Nile in the 1930s. The costumes do have an authentic look, but they're really exaggerated versions of what even the most well-dressed Nile traveler would have worn.
Won't you leave us alone?
I'm amazed that Paul Zastupnovich's costumes in The Swarm were even nominated. How ridiculous can you get? And the characters aren't wearing asbestos suits to protect them from killer bees. They're mostly just dressed in standard double-knit business suits and police uniforms. But then, why get all dressed up for the year's worst movie? Sometimes the simplest clothes are the trickiest to design. Patricia Norris brought a subtle sense of style to the worn and rugged work clothes of the farm laborers in Days of Heaven. There's a nice contrast between their clothes and the rather stiff formality of the young farmer they work for. The costumes all look lived in, and they have the same warm earth tones as the movie.
Has he come to take you back?
I suppose that's what they'd like.
Rennie Conley's costumes for caravans were based on the actual garments worn by the nomads of the Persian desert. Look at Anthony Quinn's headdress here with the authentic touch of the quilting and the rich Persian detail of Jennifer O'Neill's dress. Costume designers sometimes have to be costume historians as well.
I came here because I wanted to.
Tony Walton's costumes for The Wiz had the richest opportunity for fantasy. Here are his original watercolor sketches for the challenging costumes of those immortal fictional characters, the Cowardly Lion, the Scarecrow, and the other fellow travelers on the yellow brick road to the wonderful world of Oz. These drawings are the first step a costume designer takes in deciding what the actors will wear, how the characters will look like. The costumes then go through a series of changes before they're actually ready for a screen test. There's always a little magic in how sketches like these are transformed on the screen.
Only the one with the silver slippers.
You go ahead, Dorothy. He who hesitates, etc., etc.
I'd like to speak to the Wiz.
Hey, Mike!
I guess even that walking microphone qualifies as a costume, Gene, and the costumes in The Wiz were so colorful and so inventive that I'm going to predict they're going to take the Oscar in this category.
I'm with you. I agree. I'm going to predict that The Wiz will win, too, and deservedly so, I think. What's nice about this is that the costumes really make a story point. You know, the original Wizard of Oz was set in Kansas. Well, now we're in New York City, and, for example, that Tin Man had all the garbage of New York City streets all over him, beer cans, everything. It tells us more about the story, justifies the story. Very well done.
Another reason I think why it's a favorite is that oftentimes the voters will go for costumes that are more glitzy or more glamorous, call attention to themselves, unlike, for example, the costumes in Days of Heaven, which we also looked at, which were very subtle in terms of getting every detail just right of how people might have been dressed out in the plains of Texas before World War I. That was a very nice job. Probably won't win the Oscar, but how do you account for the Academy Award nomination for The Swarm? How do you get an Academy Award nomination for dressing people right off the rack?
Well, there's only one explanation as far as I'm concerned, and that is this costume designer must have an awful lot of friends among his fellow costume designers who nominated him. And that's an important point to make, because in trying to understand the nominations in the so-called technical craft Oscar categories, like costume design and our next one, cinematography, it's important to know that not all of the Academy's 3,560 voters select the nominees. Actually, it's just the actors who nominate the actors, costume designers who nominate the costume designers, and cinematographers who nominate for the Best Cinematographer Awards. So what you're dealing with here are small groups of people, about 100 to 200 people, who know each other very well, and like any small group, there are some powerful members and some outcasts. So that may explain why some of the nominations just don't make any sense. Favoritism does play a role. Now, that's just in the nominations. The whole Academy, all of the people, vote for all of the actual winners. Now, let's get back to cinematography. Typically, the cinematographer supervises the entire color scheme and look of a film. He discusses it with the film's director. The cinematographer then sets up each scene. The director then looks through the camera to approve the shot, and then they shoot it. The cinematographer is vitally important to a film. How important? Well, after the director, he's the second most highly paid member of the crew. The best cinematographers are paid anywhere from $60,000 to almost $100,000 per film, and that's for about 10 weeks' work. Now, let's take a look at the 5 nominees for cinematography.
This just isn't going to work.
William A. Fraker was nominated for Heaven Can Wait. The film had a wide range of looks, fuzzy and dreamy for the fantasy scenes and crisp and bright and sharp for the real-life scenes like this football training sequence.
It's just, well, all right. I've still figured out what I'm going to say to them.
Lighting is the best part of Vilmo Zsigmond's work for The Deer Hunter. You can feel the cigarette and cigar smoke. The neon lights look fuzzy around the edges, and yet everything is in focus. This looks like a real man's bar. They've been there a long time.
I love you, baby, and if it's quite all right, I need you, baby, to on a lonely night. I love you, baby, trust in me when I say.
Now here's a major achievement in cinematography. Oswald Morris's work on The Wiz. He had a special problem here, the difficult task of photographing black faces against a variety of backgrounds. In fact, a special photographic process was developed for The Wiz just to maintain the clarity of the actors' faces. Look at the camera work in this scene. There are very few static shots. The camera is usually moving, and when the camera's steady, the actors are moving rapidly. A great piece of cinematography. A thoroughly undeserved nomination went to Bruce Surtees for his dull, flat, often ugly camera work on Same Time Next Year. Surtees did have a problem. Only one major set was used in the entire movie, this unattractive resort hotel room. But he did nothing to enliven the film.
Right there.
Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, what are you doing? Wait a minute. Don't go in the bathroom.
Why not?
That's the first place they look.
Oh.
The winner in this category undoubtedly will be European cinematographer Nestor Almendros for his work on the hauntingly beautiful Days of Heaven, a doomed love story in which nature plays a leading role. As impressive as these daytime sequences are, the film is even more striking when the action moves to nighttime.
Probably calling for help or something, or they were trying to bury somebody or something. We've seen trees that the leaves are shaking and it looks like shadows of guys coming at you and stuff. We heard owls squawking away, hooting away. We didn't know where we were going, what we were gonna do. I've never been on a boat before.
Very beautiful. The photography is powerful even when the screen goes totally dark there for a second. It's hard to say, though, whether The Days of Heaven has better photography than The Wiz, but the cinematography in Days of Heaven was the biggest element in that film, whereas the photography in The Wiz plays a subordinate role to all the singing and dancing. So I'm predicting Days of Heaven will win. What do you think, Roger?
There's no question in my mind, Gene. I'm in agreement with you. Days of Heaven will win. When you stop to think about it, the cinematography is almost another character in that film. The visuals carry the story as much as the dialogue does. You have these people who are isolated in the middle of the plains of northern Texas the years before World War I. They're hundreds of miles maybe from a big city. And the sky, the horizon, and nature, all the life of the land, those are characters in the movie too. And the way that that photography captures it, the way Almendros makes us feel how lonely and isolated those people are, it's really a masterpiece of photography.
It's beautiful, and one of the points of the story is it's bigger than both of us or all of us in nature, and it really tells the story, whereas in The Wiz, although it's a good-looking photography, well, it's just there. It doesn't tell us anything about the story.
Okay, so now I picked up on your earlier commentary. How do you account for Same Time Next Year getting an award, a nomination in this category?
The only thing I can come up with is, again, is one of these favoritism kinds of things. Bruce Surtees is the son of a very famous photographer, the late Robert Surtees. Maybe some of his dad's reputation rubbed off on him. I don't know how else to explain it.
Or maybe he's being honored this year for stuff he did a couple of years ago and didn't get nominated for, but Same Time Next Year is not special.
No, it's pretty ugly, as a matter of fact. Now, we'll be back with the rest of the nominees for acting right after a look at this animated film. The animation you're about to see was all done by molding and moving bits of clay. They form the clay, take a picture of it, reform the clay, take another picture of it, reform it again. You get the idea. A very painstaking process.
When Rip entertained, he always drew a crowd.
There are men, special men, born to do the work of 10. They are steel to the touch, and bet your life those men are Dutch. We are such men, solemn Dutch men, no need to applaud. We are stronger, we'll work longer, and we just thank God for work. Ask him why he does toil every moment in the soil. He'll reply square to you. What else would a real man do? We are such men, solemn Dutchmen. We don't dance or sing. May our neighbor have her labor, and may each day bring more work. There is virtue in the dirt. You must live for one thing. Your work.
And now we move on to the nominees for Best Supporting Actress, and we start with the actress I'm predicting is going to win the Oscar in this category, Diane Cannon for Heaven Can Wait. She plays a good, rich, comic role, and watch her here while she tries to juggle hysteria, greed, lust, conspiracy, and terminal confusion.
Getting ready to spring some kind of a trap. This whole thing, the football team gag, the ecology crap, the divorce bit, it's all part of some plot. Now, the only thing that he has not announced to the newspapers is our divorce. And the minute he does that, you know I'm going to be the first person they suspect when we kill him. You're not...
Julie, darling, perhaps I'm just being silly, but I would be so much more comfortable if you... Am I upsetting you? Have I offended you in some way?
Don't put your hand over my mouth again.
I'm sorry, darling. You used to like it.
Listen to me. If we don't do something right away, we're going to lose it all. I should have my head examined for signing a prenuptial agreement. I'll wind up with my wardrobe and some allowance, and you'll be fired without references.
We'll still have each other.
Not after you bring charges against us for the last two murders. Don't you try it.
Diane Cannon, she's been good for a long time. And in Heaven Can Wait, there are just scenes that she just plain steals. Supporting actress nominee Maureen Stapleton steals some scenes, too, in Woody Allen's movie Interiors. She plays the new fiancée that the father brings home to dinner, and until her entrance, the movie has been an unrelentingly serious drama. She introduces a little unaffected freshness into an intellectual argument about a play they've all just seen.
I didn't get that. I mean, to me, it wasn't such a big deal. One guy was a squealer, the other guy wasn't. I liked the guy that wasn't.
Well, it's a little more complex than that, don't you think?
Why? You liked the squealer? Did I miss something?
That's what made me anxious about the play. I mean, how do you figure out the right thing to do? How do you know?
How do you know? I don't know. You just know, and you feel it. I mean, you just don't squeal. I don't know.
Maureen Stapleton, right down to earth in the midst of that neurotic family. And now here are all the nominees for Best Supporting Actress. Penelope Milford, who played Jane Fonda's best pal in Coming Home. Maggie Smith, the nervous actress who was nominated for an Oscar herself in California Suite. Meryl Streep, the girl left behind in The Deer Hunter. Maureen Stapleton in Interiors, and Diane Cannon in Heaven Can Wait. And I'm predicting Diane Cannon. Gene, I think that she was really great in Heaven Can Wait. She's got kind of a sexy, intelligent comic sense. She's been around for a few years. She's popular in Hollywood. She just last year was nominated for an Academy Award for a short film she made, and I think that she deserves to win in this category.
She has a good chance. My preference is also the person I'm going to predict here, and I think it's going to be Maureen Stapleton. I think she's critically important to the film Interiors. If the film is about unhappy people and she's the one happy person, then really she's half the story, and she really makes the film come alive, so I'm predicting Maureen Stapleton.
She certainly was noticeable in that film. If I had to pick a preference, I think maybe my preference would be Diane Cannon too, but if not Diane Cannon, then Penelope Milford, who was so good as Fonda's friend in Coming Home. Their men went off to fight the war, they were left together. The camaraderie there on the Army base was really well developed.
Yeah, I cared a lot about her character, almost as much as Fonda's character. Now, the supporting actor and actress categories frequently feature the work of fresh, new actors and actresses. They don't often win, but this year there may be an exception in the supporting actor category. Among the veterans who have been nominated, the frontrunner is Bruce Dern, who's played an assortment of crazies during his career. Dern was typecast in Coming Home as a gung-ho soldier shell-shocked by the battlefield atrocities committed by his men in Vietnam, and he explains this to his wife, Jane Fonda, during a week's leave in Hong Kong.
My men were chopping heads off. That's what they were into. Well, they were dead.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and
If Dern wins, it'll be for playing that kind of same character so often and so well during his career. But I'm betting that Christopher Walken, a first-time nominee, will win for his stunning performance as another shell-shocked Vietnam veteran in The Deer Hunter. What better way to express the horrors of the war than not being able to talk about it? Here he is, recovering from battle in an Army hospital.
All right, let me see your name tag. This yours? Yes. What are your parents' names?
Lou. My mother's name is, Eva.
Huh? And what are your parents' dates of birth?
A powerful moment in a strong film, and I think that scene is going to win him the Oscar. Also nominated, but frankly they don't have much of a chance, are the popular Jack Warden, the football coach in Heaven Can Wait, Richard Farnsworth, a dying old cowhand in Comes a Horseman, and John Hurt, a sensitive English drug addict trapped in a brutal Turkish jail in Midnight Express. As also I mentioned, Bruce Dern in Coming Home, and Christopher Walken in The Deer Hunter. I'm picking Christopher Walken. How about you?
I guess we're in agreement. I'm picking Christopher Walken too, and I think it was really a performance that not only am I predicting, but I think it deserves the Oscar. When you stop to think about it, although he's nominated as Best Supporting Actor, his role is just as important as the one that Robert De Niro has for Best Actor. He's there at the beginning, he's there in this scene we see in the middle of the film, and then he gets in even deeper. It's really a great role.
Yes, he's the one we really care about the most. I think it's a terrific performance. Now, oddly enough, sometimes they put a character like De Niro in the lead category and a newcomer like Walken in the supporting category. That way the film company can try and get 2 nominations.
I think we're going to hear a lot more about him, but let's move on right now to Best Actress. And you know, in a way, Gene, I think the Best Actress Oscar is the one that movie fans really get the most excited about, even more than Best Actor or maybe even more than Best Picture. And in the last few years, with the rebirth of the great women's roles, the competition in this category has been especially close. So let's start with my choice for the winner, Jill Clayburgh, an unmarried woman. Here she is, having an argument with her husband, Michael Murphy, who's left her for a younger woman.
You really hate me, don't you?
Yeah.
I don't hate you.
Oh. You were always a very compassionate man.
Now, wait a minute.
Marty.
How can you hate somebody that you were in love with for 16 years? I don't know.
It's easy.
Well, if you're trying to make me feel guiltier than I already do, you're doing a good job.
Good.
This is ridiculous. Why are we having this conversation?
Martin, do you know how many times we made love? No.
No, I don't want to get into that.
I want to tell you. At least 2,000 times. That's counting twice a week for 16 years. You should put it up on your ticker tape. I think it's a very interesting statistic. I want to know something. Did you fall out of love with my flesh, my body? Or me? With Erica? Did you fall out of love with Erica?
Wait a minute. I didn't fall out of love with you. I love you. I mean, all right, it's different now, but I love you. I can't just erase all those years. I'll always love you.
Jill Clayburgh is at the center of that whole movie, surviving a broken marriage and putting her life back together again. I predicted months ago she'd win an Oscar for her performance right after I first saw the movie. Still think so. Now let's take a look at some of her competition.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Why do you have to look so luminous? I mean, it would make things so much easier if you woke up with puffy eyes and blotchy skin like everyone else.
Guess God just figured that chubby thighs were enough.
Varför känner jag mig som jag hade feber? Därför vill jag bara gråta. Idiotiskt dumt. Där ska jag stå utskämd. Och det är meningen. Och så dåligt samvete. Alltid dåligt samvete.
Move out. Look, it's not irrevocable. It's a trial separation.
Can't be alone.
Eve.
I don't want to discuss the details just now. Oh, it's a very bad time for me.
Geraldine Page, there's a real poignancy there in the way she tries to maintain her dignity while her life is falling to pieces all around her. The other two nominees we just saw both won Oscars as Best Actress before. Ellen Burstyn in 1974 and Ingrid Bergman, she won in both 1944 and 1956. And so is Jane Fonda, who won for Clute in 1974. This year, Fonda's been nominated for Coming Home, and here she is on moving day at the Army base in a scene with Best Supporting Actress nominee, Penelope Milford.
Hey, you want to see something funny?
I'd love to.
My yearbook.
Oh, look at that dress.
It was a nice dress.
It's cute. There's another one here. So funny looking at the way we used to look, isn't it?
Doggy in the window?
Look.
Ooh. Sally Bender. Nickname Sal. What is the one thing you want on a desert island? A husband.
I was so ambitious.
And so original.
You know the guy we were just talking about? He's in here somewhere.
Oh, yeah?
Look. Luke Martin.
Nickname, the Duke.
He's cute.
Co-captain of the football team.
Hmm.
What one thing would he want on a desert island? A mirror.
Jane Fonda. And so the five nominees for Best Actress are Jill Clayburgh in An Unmarried Woman, Ellen Burstyn in Same Time Next Year, Ingrid Bergman in Autumn Sonata, Geraldine Page in Interiors, and Jane Fonda in Coming Home, and as I said, I'm predicting Jill Clayburgh from An Unmarried Woman. I think it's a terrific performance. She has to go through so many changes, from happiness at the beginning, then through the breakup of her marriage. She drifts for a while, meets a man. The gamut of emotions, as they say in the showbiz, I suppose. It's a great performance.
Well, I'm picking Jane Fonda, and I think for two reasons. One, she's at the top of her game. She's working in a whole bunch of hit films. California Suite, Comes a Horseman, now China Syndrome. She's working for every studio. Everybody seems to like her. And she was not, the second reason, she was not shrill in this Vietnam film, Coming Home, when I think a lot of people thought she was going to be. She was warm. It was a great human performance. I think she's going to win.
What kind of a chance do you think Ingrid Bergman has? Is she kind of a sentimental favorite?
I think she may be. She's announced her retirement from films, reportedly due to illness. If she does retire, if people think that's going to happen, she could get a sympathy vote and win.
Well, that might be a possibility. Before we go on to the next category, we'd like to show you another Oscar nominee for animation.
And now we come to what in recent years has been the laughing stock of the Academy Awards, the Best Song category, which in the 70s has featured a great many songs that no one has either heard of either before or after the Oscar show. You'll recall that last year, none of the songs from Saturday Night Fever was nominated, incredibly, but the waltz from The Story of Cinderella was. That's crazy. Now, all of this is due to the old fogies who make up the group within the Academy that selects the music nominees. They caught a lot of flack for their nominations last year, so this year, finally, we have some contemporary music. The odds-on favorite, Olivia Newton-John, singing Hopelessly Devoted to You from Grease, the top money-making musical of all time. Money talks in Hollywood, so this should win.
I don't even know your name.
Now here's an unfamiliar song. Johnny Mathis and Jane Oliver sang this during the interludes in same time next year.
Just a simple hello.
Hello, do I smile the way? No, I think I smile and stay to see where this might go.
Fall in love again. Yes, the last time I felt like this was long before I knew what I'm feeling now with you.
When your love.
Bet you haven't heard this tune before. The only reason this bomber was nominated, it was sung by last year's Oscar winner, Debbie Boone.
Cannot weather, and when your love, the missing parts all fit together.
Now here he is, a popular hit song, Barry Manilow singing the love theme from Foul Play. And if Grease doesn't win, I predict the Oscar will go to the disco hit Last Dance, sung by Donna Summer. This may surprise you, but after the Best Picture and Acting Awards, the Oscar for Best Song is the most highly sought after. That's because it can bring in the most money, because a victory means that the record will get a lot of play on the radio, which in turn will sell more singles, and then the film soundtrack will sell as well. Well, I predict the winner will be Hopelessly Devoted to You from Grease, but not necessarily because it's the best music. It's because I think the Academy may try to make up for its embarrassing omission of Saturday Night Fever last year Both Saturday Night Fever and Grease are on the same record label, RSO, the Robert Stigwood Organization, so the Academy voters might be giving an Oscar really to 2 films this time.
Probably so. I'm also predicting, once again, hopelessly devoted to you. The question I have, though, looking back, thinking back about Grease, is what about songs like Grease or You're the One That I Want, which were a lot livelier and were bigger hits than Hopelessly Devoted?
And much more inventive in terms of the music.
Those were overlooked.
Yeah. I think what happens, and people ought to know this, is that the film company and the record company get together and decide which song they're going to promote, and they can promote it in a number of ways. They take out ads in the trade publications like Variety and Daily Reporter, Hollywood Reporter, and also they send out free copies of the record to all the Academy members. So they're sending this one record, that's the one that gets nominated.
So they're trying to manufacture another hit.
Yeah, from Olivia Newton-John, who's a hot record star.
Terrific. Let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
Have you seen The Magic of Lassie?
No, and I don't think I want to.
Okay, well, I haven't seen it either. It hasn't played in most cities. It was an enormous flop. And yet, what's the name of this song? Pause?
I can't remember.
Remembering You in Doggy Heaven or something? How do songs like this get nominated when you have songs like Every Which Way But Loose, which didn't get nominated?
Well, again, these companies hire record promoters, and these guys' job is to influence people and get a nomination. They obviously hired a pretty good one for that song.
They got a real dog this time, The Magic of Lassie. And now, from best song to one of the quietest categories, art direction, because the sets hardly ever make any noise. In fact, one of the easiest ways to explain what the art director does is to say that he's responsible for the parts of the movie that don't move. The sets, the props, the furniture, the streets, the houses, the seats. It's his job to place the characters securely in their surroundings, whether they live as they do this year in South Boston or California, and Long Island or Heaven, or even in the legendary Kingdom of Oz. Now, we're going to look at all the scenes from all the nominees, and when you look at them, don't pay so much attention to the acting as to the things that surround the actors. Look at the meticulous attention that's gone into creating the world the characters live in.
Come on in. Have a drink.
I don't drink, but I'll have a drink anyway.
Good, what'll it be?
Got any Chianti?
No, I don't keep that cheap stuff in the house.
Why then forget it? I'm better off without
The
it.
Brinks job takes us back to Boston in 1950. Look at this set, for example, for the inside of a house. It looks absolutely real as the characters move through the rooms. Watch the details, the wallpaper, the furniture, even the knickknacks on the mantelpiece.
He wanted me to ask you if you wanted some work.
What sort of work would that be?
Sandy didn't tell you?
Not that I remember. Where'd you get that tie?
Well, they're handmade.
Do me a favor. Next time you're in the North End, boost a couple for me. I like to give them away to my help.
Listen, mister, I didn't come here to talk about clothes. I take peeps. I'm the best damn peep man that there ever was, and I don't need nobody along who don't know that.
Well, I guess then you don't need me along then, do you?
Gin and tonic, please.
Nothing for me.
California Suite was the Neil Simon comedy that told 4 stories about visitors to the Beverly Hills Hotel. And the hotel was reproduced in perfect detail. This movie set duplicates the famous Polo Lounge.
It's no fun anymore.
Even the hotel's hallways and rooms were duplicated, and only the colors of the guest rooms were changed to make them look brighter for the camera.
I'll take care of you later.
Heaven Can Wait was an out-of-this-world challenge for the art director because it told the story of a professional athlete who died when it wasn't his turn. He was given another chance in heaven to return to Earth for the rest of his allotted days. The art direction supplied this luxurious mansion and a millionaire's lifestyle.
After that, she was always sort of coming in and...
Woody Allen's film Interiors was about a rather cold and distant family, and the whole film had the look of this scene. Lots of light, but sort of wintry light, not too many furnishings, but perfectly selected, and an extra good taste with cool, remote pastel colors. The furnishings tell us as much about the characters as the characters themselves.
She put Dad through law school, and she financed the start of his practice. So in a sense, it was like he was her creation.
The Wiz is the movie I'm predicting will win the Oscar for Best Art Direction. The whole movie is full of unrestrained visual fantasy, and the most spectacular scene has got to be this one. Using special effects to combine the Chrysler Building and a yellow brick road, it gives Dorothy and the Scarecrow an unforgettable pathway to Oz.
It's
So the 5 nominees for art direction. The art director is usually the guy who gets the screenplay, and then he moves from the sublime to the mundane. First he visualizes the movie's fantasy world, then he gets out his hammer and his nails, and he builds it. I say The Wiz is going to win, Gene. What do you think?
I think I'm going to pick an upset, California Suite. The reason is they duplicated this famous hotel out in Hollywood. It's the Hollywood film workers who actually make the voting. I think they're going to back one of their own creations. They're amazed to see that hotel on film. So.
Well, I think they're amazed, but maybe not that easily amazed. I thought The Wiz was a lot more fun, especially because the art direction was combined with a lot of special effects. In the scene we saw, for example, of the mythical Manhattan skyline that was turned into the world of Oz, lots of special effects went into that in addition to the original artistic conception.
My preference might be the one from Interiors. It's beautiful, as you said, cold. It tells the story silently. We don't even need to know anything about the characters. We can just look at their rooms.
That might be a pretty competitive category. We'll be back with the nominee for Best Picture after this second look at the clay animation in Rip Van Winkle. Now, there were only 3 nominees for animation this year, and Gene and I both think this is the winner.
Now we end our show the same way the Oscar show will end on April 9th, with the award for Best Picture, the most important prize of all. A win here can mean millions of dollars because it'll get a film additional weeks of playing time in movie theaters all over the world. So first nominee, a surprisingly popular film, Midnight Express, a film with great appeal for young people, the story of a young American's incarceration for drug dealing inside a terrifying Turkish prison. A crushing moment occurs when the boy's father visits him in jail.
Billy, if I could be where you were, I'd be there.
I love you, Dad.
Kutaru.
Midnight Express. I found a lot of its horror repetitive. I didn't think it was one of the year's best pictures.
Yeah, kind of a one-note movie. I thought a lot of other films, including Days of Heaven, should have been nominated before Midnight Express. The next movie, though, I thought was one of the year's best. It's Paul Mazursky's An Unmarried Woman, and it was a comedy with a lot of bitter truth in it. Here's a scene from near the beginning of the film with Jill Clayburgh and Michael Murphy.
But I can't. You don't know her or anything. Her name is Marcia Brenner. She's a teacher. She's 26. Got better moving deals, for Christ's sake. I was standing there buying a shirt, you know, and she was standing next to me. She asked me if I liked the shirt that she was buying for her father. Oh, God. I'm so sorry.
You tell Patty. You tell Patty that you're sorry.
I'm in love with her.
That moment begins the rest of her life. I don't know if the picture's going to win an Academy Award or not. It came out a year ago. Maybe it doesn't have quite enough strength, but I thought it was one of the best pictures, most serious pictures about women in a long time.
I like the beginning of the film a lot. I don't believe some of the ending. I agree with you, though. I don't think it has the power to win. Our next nominee, Heaven Can Wait. It's one of the most honored remakes in Academy Award history. 9 nominations for a romantic comedy based on the 1944 film Here Comes Mr. Jordan. Warren Beatty falls in love with Julie Christie.
You'd never forget me either, would you? I mean, that thing you said you saw in me, you said it was something in my eyes, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if someday somebody came up to you, he might even be a football player, and he acted like he'd seen you before, you'd notice that same thing, wouldn't you? Or even if you thought you did, you'd give him a chance, wouldn't you? He might be a good guy. He could be anybody. He could even be a quarterback.
I didn't understand what you're saying.
Ah, I'm just acting crazy. Betty?
A romantic moment in a nice film, but that's all that Heaven Can Wait is, a nice picture, not Academy Award material.
I was kind of surprised, too, it got 9 nominations. I guess maybe people were in the mood for a light romantic comedy. That's all I can figure. Anyway, Gene, let's look at the movie I'm predicting will win the Oscar as this year's Best Picture. It's Michael Cimino's The Deer Hunter, a deeply moving 3-hour drama that's nowhere more compelling than in this scene, which takes place in a prisoner of war camp. The Viet Cong guards are forcing their prisoners to play Russian roulette while they gamble on who's going to be the first one to blow his brains out.
Stevie, come down.
Just about the whole picture's at that level of intensity, and I think that Deer Hunter is really the best American epic since the 2 Godfather pictures. It's got tremendous intensity, and I really do think it's going to win.
Well, I'll tell you, it's got the momentum right now. It's playing to capacity business throughout the United States. If momentum means anything, this picture should do it, and it is a very powerful film. However, I think the film that's going to win is Best Picture of the Year, also a film about the Vietnam War, this time a Vietnam War, love, and rehabilitation story, Coming Home, with Jane Fonda providing an awkward welcome home for her soldier husband, Bruce Dern.
You never told me that you were this close to the beach.
I wanted to surprise you.
You're full of surprises.
Hey! Welcome back, hero.
Hi, how are you?
Great. So tell me, how's Dink?
Dink is fine. He's kicking everybody's ass, as always.
Great.
No, ladies first, but I'll have the number 2 one. Oh, my God, is this good?
Cheers.
Are you hungry?
Yeah, I made some Swedish meatballs for Nivelas. They go great with drinks.
A disturbing contrast of emotions there in Coming Home. I think the reason it may win, I think it's a nicer picture about a rough subject. There's a beautiful love story there between Jon Voight and Jane Fonda, and also Jon Voight is terrific in a portrait of a strong handicapped person. A great film.
It is a nicer film than The Deer Hunter, but I still think The Deer Hunter is going to win. Any other year, maybe Coming Home, but this year, The Deer Hunter, coming so recently, being so long in a way, it's a 3-hour environment that you get lost in, and so powerful. I'm sticking with The Deer Hunter.
If I had to say my preference, if I were a voter, I'd vote for The Deer Hunter. As much as it's got a lot of faults, its strengths, I think, are magnificent.
Okay, preferences. I'm still for The Deer Hunter, but I do have a soft spot in my heart for An Unmarried Woman. I like that picture, but let's say The Deer Hunter.
And you know what could happen? We've got 4 serious pictures. They could all cancel each other out, and the light comedy could win.
Warren Beatty.
Exactly, and that'd be a shame, because I think neither one of us really thinks that Heaven Can Wait is in the same league with these other films.
And now let's take one more look at all of our predictions, and I'm going to bet you, Gene, right now a carton of Raisinets that I get more right again this year than
You're
you
on,
do.
you're on.
Okay, for Best Actor, I'm predicting Robert De Niro in The Deer Hunter, and Gene thinks it's going to be Jon Voight in Coming Home. For Best Actress, my choice is Jill Clayburgh in An Unmarried Woman. Gene picks Jane Fonda in Coming Home. For Best Supporting Actor, we're both predicting it'll be Christopher Walken in The Deer Hunter. And for Best Supporting Actress, I say Diane Cannon will win for Heaven Can Wait. but Gene thinks it'll be Maureen Stapleton in Interiors. And once again, for the year's Best Picture, I predict the Academy Award will go to The Deer Hunter, and Gene predicts Coming Home will be the big winner. And Gene, we agree on 4 out of the 5 other Oscar categories. We both think The Wiz will win for Best Costume Design, that Days of Heaven will take the Oscar for cinematography, that the year's Best Song will be Hopelessly Devoted to You from Grease, and that Rip Van Winkle will take the prize for animation. In the category of art direction, though, our only disagreement, I say it'll be The Wiz, and Gene, you're predicting California Suite.
So that's it for this special Oscar show. Next time, we return to our regular format of reviewing 5 new movies. Until then, we'll be watching the Academy Awards along with you on Monday, April 9th. See you at the movies. Oh, Roger, you shouldn't have, but thanks.